Men do not understand themselves, yet they dare to claim they understand women. These words, though never written by Plato, pulse through the veins of his philosophy like a silent, unyielding truth. Plato did not scribble dating advice or manuals on winning affection. He dealt with the rot festering beneath the surface, the blindness of men to the forces puppeteering their minds. Long before society conditioned men to chase beauty or kneel at the altar of feminine whispers, Plato dissected the core disease, the untrained mind, a playground for deception, where shadows reign as kings. Consider his allegory of the cave. Prisoners, chained since birth, stare at shadows cast by puppeteers behind them. To these captives, the flickering illusions are reality. They worship the dance of silhouettes, building their lives on lies. But what Plato leaves unsaid, what most refuse to see, is that one of the most potent shadows enslaving men is woman herself. Not woman as she exists in essence, but woman as an idea, a mirage crafted to keep men distracted, compliant, and emotionally shackled. She becomes a projection of their unmet desires, unhealed wounds, and unchallenged ignorance. Plato warns that the masses will cling to illusions even when truth scorches their eyes, and no illusion is more seductive than the belief in female innocence, the myth that women are incapable of manipulation. This is the grand theater where men lose themselves. A smile becomes love. Tears morph into sincerity. A fleeting touch is destiny. To Plato, this is the prisoner who mistakes the shadow for the sun. The untrained man lives in a cave of his own making, calling delusion reality. True knowledge, Plato argues, begins with the admission of ignorance. The beginning of wisdom is the definition of terms, he writes. Yet, how many men define woman by her surface rather than her substance? How many scrutinize feminine influence with the rigor they apply to business or war? Few, if any. Women dominate the emotional realm not through Machiavellian schemes, but by existing as mirrors to male weakness. They reflect the voids men refuse to confront: insecurity, hunger for validation, fear of inadequacy. The chains are not on their wrists, but wrapped around their minds. Plato's chariot allegory in Phaedrus lays this bare. The soul, he writes, is a chariot pulled by two horses, one noble, craving reason, the other wild, thirsting for pleasure. The driver, the man, must master both. But when a woman enters the scene, the wild horse snaps its reins. Drawn to her laughter, scent, or gaze, the untrained driver surrenders, mistaking this chaos for falling in love. Plato names it spiritual slavery. In this symposium, he calls love a divine madness, a God-sent frenzy that blinds men to truth, making them worship beauty's image over its essence. Unless mastered, this madness reduces men to pawns, chasing fleeting pleasures like dogs after scraps. Women, consciously or not, recognize this power. They need not conspire, they need only exist as prizes in the mind of a man who hasn't tamed his appetites. He elevates her to purpose, meaning salvation. In doing so, he no longer sees her. He sees the goddess he sculpted from his hunger. This is the seed of manipulation. Plato feared not war, but the soul's corruption. Men who cannot govern themselves, he warned, will be governed by tyrants, sophists, or flatterers. And who flatters more deftly than a woman who knows a man craves her validation? She becomes the puppeteer, he the marionette, dancing for crumbs of attention, trading dignity for delusion. The tragedy? The game begins within. Every time a man chooses pleasure over principle, fantasy over truth, he hands victory to the shadows. Plato's just man does not let desire dominate, yet modern men barter with their base selves, begging for validation, mistaking negotiation for nobility. This is not love, it is cowardice. A man who escapes the cave only to build a gilded prison, velvet chains clinking as he bows to a new master, his own hunger. When did you last ask why you chase women? Is she leading you toward truth or deeper into illusion? Most men never ask. to ask is to admit they've been fools, that their tales of love and destiny are smoke. Until they face this, they remain slaves not to women, but to the idea of women, a myth they're too terrified to question. Plato saw society as a tapestry of narratives meant to keep the masses obedient. For men, the most insidious myth is that women complete them. In the Republic, Plato insists the masses must be ruled by truth seers, yet most men never rule even their minds. The soul, he says, is tripartite: reason, spirit, appetite. Most men live in appetite, the realm of pleasure, comfort, and validation. A woman's smile becomes a drug, her touch, a fix. Look, this is the lowest tier of the soul. The part Plato warns must be ruled by reason, or it will drag you into ruin. Weak men hand women terrifying power, not because she challenges their minds or respects their mission, but because she feeds the beast of appetite. Like desert wanderers, they crawl, parched, begging for validation from those holding water. They once had the power to create themselves. Look around. Men raise families for a stranger's touch, topple empires for a woman's approval, end lives when she leaves. What greater proof that appetite reigns? Plato's warning echoes: no man is free who is not master of himself. Money, fame, conquest, none matter if a glance can shatter you. In the laws, he ties societal collapse to pleasure usurping discipline. Modernity is a graveyard of men who sacrifice strength at the altar of feminine approval. Politics, religion, culture, all brim with men genuflecting not to truth, but to fear of losing her. Plato didn't teach men to hate women. He taught them to see. Woman is not the enemy, but a mirror. She plays the game because you invited her, blind and desperate. To flip the board, you must rise from the cave, reclaim your mind's throne. But this demands facing what men fear most, the truth about themselves. My truth modernity rejects. Women test men to expose weakness already within. She isn't the cause of collapse, but the mirror revealing the cracks in your soul when stripped of ego. In Gorgias, he devastates: it is better to suffer injustice than to commit it. Why? The unjust man proves he's mastered nothing, not even his desires. Here's the irony. When you chase a woman, bending values, betraying purpose, you commit injustice against your soul. You call it love. Plato calls it self-violation. True harmony, he taught, comes from ruling oneself with reason, aligning actions with truth. Yet society programs men to betray this. Fight for her, it preaches. Sacrifice everything: dignity, mission, self, to prove your love. Plato foresaw this in the Republic, the rule of persuasive flatterers. And who flatters better than a woman who stokes your ego as you surrender autonomy? She needn't argue or conquer. A glance, a word, a touch, you unravel, mistaking slavery for romance. Civilizations fall when men trade discipline for pleasure. Athens crumbled as leaders pandered to the masses. Modern men crumble, pandering to women. The disease is identical: the untrained soul. But Plato prescribed the cure. Escape the cave. Let truth burn the shadows away. Most men won't dare. They'll never see woman as mirror reflecting gluttony, fragility, need. Do you have the courage to face that reflection? To stand not as beggar or slave, but as self-governed king? Plato's philosopher king, master of his soul, seeker of truth, is unshaken by games. See her not as goddess or foe, but as mirror. Reclaim power not with bitterness, but clarity. Then you become Plato's just man, ruler of self, immune to manipulation. Every boundary you fold, every truth you silence, every mission abandoned for her whim. This isn't love, it's self-betrayal. The root of all injustice. Why do tyrants rise? Why do empires fall? Because men serve pleasure, not truth. Women test to expose this. She nudges boundaries to see if you'll hold, withholds affection to see if you'll beg, challenges convictions to see if you'll break. Each surrender erodes her respect, for she knows a man who can't rule himself rules nothing, not his life, legacy, nor future. In Phaedo, Plato writes, the soul takes on the character of the actions it pursues. Chase validation, and your soul shrivels. Make her attention your zenith, and your spirit dwindles to pettiness. This is the brutal math. Bargain your soul for affection, and you lose both. The rebellion begins within. Stop chasing shadows. Stop trading sovereignty for scraps. Stand before the mirror. Confront the cowardice, the hunger, the fear. When you do, you'll outgrow the games, not by conquering women, but by conquering yourself. Plato's warning is clear. Fear not losing her, but losing you. The soul, he insists, is corrupted by the lies it lives. Modern men are drowning in these lies, romanticizing obsession as passion, need as love, servitude as devotion. Break the cycle. Start here. Question every impulse. Why do you crave her approval? Is it rooted in lack? A void you've let her define? Plato's chariot awaits. Will reason steer, or will appetite drag you into darkness? Discipline is not denial, but alignment. It's seeing her as human, flawed, complex, neither savior nor demon, while seeing yourself as sovereign. The path is solitary. No guru, podcast, or mantra will walk it for you. It demands brutal honesty. What shadows have you worshipped? What illusions have you called love? The answers will scalpel your ego, but beneath lies freedom. Society will resist. It profits from your hunger. The romantic industrial complex, films, songs, novels, feeds the myth that love is salvation. Plato knew better. Love, untethered from truth, is bondage. Real love, the philosophical love, elevates both souls. But first, you must elevate yourself. In the Laws, Plato writes that education should teach men to find pleasure in what benefits the soul. Modern education does the opposite. It trains men to seek pleasure in screens, substances, and strangers' validation. Re-educate yourself. Feast on wisdom, self-mastery, purpose. Let these become your new appetite. Women will test you. Let them. Each test is a forge. When she withholds, will you chase or cultivate self-respect? When she critiques, will you fawn or stand rooted? Each choice etches your soul's character. The philosopher king isn't born. He's carved through such trials. This is the rebellion. Withdraw from the cave, not with hatred for its shadows, but with pity for those still enchained. Build your citadel inward, rule your mind, let reason command, let spirit fuel, let appetite obey. And when you meet her, the woman who mirrors not your lack, but your wholeness, you'll recognize her, not because she completes you, but because she sees you, a fellow traveler outside the cave, bearing the scars of self-conquest. That is Plato's love, not madness, but mutual recognition of souls striving toward the good. The journey is relentless. There will be days the cave's comfort calls. Shadows whisper, return. Worship us, it's easier. Resist. Let truth's fire harden you. Plato's cure is not a pill, but a path, one walked by Socrates, Marcus Aurelius, Nietzsche. Now it's your turn. Shed the mists, embrace the burn of clarity. And when you do, you'll find what Plato promised. A soul unshackled, a mind unclouded, a life unplayed. This is the way. The rest is shadow.